The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. Dr. Stefan Zavalin is a movement mentor driven to change desk work culture. Despite losing his vision in graduate school, he started a company called Love to Move, where he mentors organizations in adapting company culture to improve productivity and health. Since starting on his mission, Stefan has written a book called Sit Less, and he's given a TED Talk on the same subject. In his free time, he likes to write songs on the piano and the guitar, critique a good cup of coffee, and play board games with his wife and friends. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love talking about this stuff, so it's so nice to be here.
And you're obviously, literally walking your talk.
I try to.
I think
Absolutely.
he was doing jumping jacks while I was reading his bio. So he's totally into this. And so we're going to be talking to Stefan about his hero's journey. And for those of you in my audience who have no clue what the hero's journey is and why I would talk about it, there was a man named Dr. Joseph Campbell who many years ago studied myths, which is, I think, is just, oh my God, what a great job. And it studied myths from cultures literally all over the world. He traveled everywhere and got stories from all cultures. And he realized there were some common elements. And those common elements he put together in a 16-point cycle that we're not going to do the whole 16 points. That's too much for anybody. So we're going to focus on the 5 pieces that I think are really important for the entrepreneurial journey, because we're humans, we are heroes in our story. As entrepreneurs, we are by definition heroes to the max. So the 5 points that we're going to talk about are the ordinary beginning, which I always laugh at, the call to action, what got you here, the big hairy monsters, which is a lot of times really wrapped up in that whole call to action thing. Sometimes the big hairy monsters kind of push you off the cliff and you have to learn how to fly. And then there are those folks who help you learn how to fly on the way down. These are your allies, your mentors, your guide, literally the wind beneath your wings that help you along the way and cheerlead your progress. And then there's the other folks. Joseph Campbell called it the journey home, and I have to believe that he had a kind of a tongue-in-cheek in that, because, what's the quote? The prophet is never respected on their home turf. Something along those lines. So the folks that you have in your life may not understand you as an entrepreneur at all, period. Just not. And many times are actively resisting you being an entrepreneur and think you're crazy and want to stop you. And when you have accepted that first payment for your services or your product, your brainchild, it changes you. But the folks in your life haven't changed. How do you deal with that? What goes on with that? So that's always one of my favorite pieces in this. But before all of that, Stefan, what was your ordinary beginning?
Oh, and I love this question because it's you made a joke about it, ordinary, of how truly ordinary can we really start. We moved to the States. I was originally born in Russia, and we moved to the States. And so, well, yeah, why not start at the beginning, as they say.
Right.
Growing up, we generally in Russia and where we had this whole culture of moving around constantly. We would walk places. We didn't even own a car back there, not because of any financial limitations, but you didn't need it because you were just moving and walking around everywhere, and public transit. Then when we came here, I was still moving a lot, doing a lot of things. But by the time I got to high school age, I got more into music, and I said, I don't need this whole gym thing. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to play in orchestras. This is what I'm going to do. And slowly but surely, all the outside sports and everything fell by the wayside. I started gaining weight. My parents tried to handle it the best way that they could. Unfortunately, that was to shame me and tell me that I needed to do something about my weight, and it was bad. I didn't know what to do about my weight. So I started eating less and moving more, which seemed to be the most basic thing. That got to the point of where I would eat a green apple and a cucumber for lunch and then go to the gym for 2 or 3 hours. I just didn't know any better, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I will say, inevitably, what ended up happening is I kind of understood, okay, I need to eat more. And I did develop this kind of passion for, okay, I like fitness, I like exercise. So then I went to undergrad. I started off in an orchestra, realized I'm not going to be happy doing that. I like playing music. I don't like learning music. Different environment, different things. So I said, okay, what is it out here that I can do? And I switched my degree to kinesiology, which is basically exercise science. And I thought, oh, well, this is fun. Maybe I'll open up a gym or something with this. So I had a little bit of that entrepreneur kind of mindset at that point. And then my parents said, we want a grad school. And I went, what now? I haven't thought about this as the plan to grad school, but since they paid for undergrad, I felt that I had to. So I looked into it and I found physical therapy. And I thought, you get paid to do this? This is amazing. I want to do this. This is perfect. So I went to grad school for physical therapy. Some would argue that this is actually where the story begins, but I think that you need a little bit of that because this is where the first obstacle really begins. Yes, and we'll get into it more, but I started grad school for physical therapy up in Philadelphia, and I developed a little bit of a pain in my eye. And to give you a little bit of context, from my birth, I never had the right eye. The optic nerve never developed fully well. It was halfway developed, and so the vision was very, very poor. And glasses don't help because it's the optic nerve. It's not the eye, so it doesn't do anything for you. So I developed this pain in my other good eye because, lucky me. And I got misdiagnosed for many months until finally I went to a specialist and they said, you have a parasite in your eye. And
Ooh.
I know, not expected.
Okay, trigger warning. We're going to put trigger warnings on
Trigger warnings, trigger warnings. And to be fair, people always ask, how did you get it? This was like a 1 in a million chance. Okay. It's nothing for anybody to be worried about. It's not, don't ban Philadelphia from your travel list. There were a lot of things that had to happen for it on top of the being misdiagnosed for a long period of time. So please understand that and don't be terrified of Pennsylvania. But inevitably I had to pull out of school and 6 surgeries down the road with a lot of other stuff that had to happen. I was out. I finally got back into school. They helped me. I was able to finish. They were so wonderful about it. I had to take spring break, and instead I just stayed and studied and took my exams. Same thing with summer vacation. None of that for me, but I got through it. I got my degree. It was wonderful. And then I got into the clinic. And I think that was kind of the origin of all this, is I finally got into the clinic as a physical therapist. And here I was thinking, this is exactly what I wanted to do. And at this point, my vision wasn't fantastic. I couldn't drive because of my vision, but with reading glasses, I could read. And so that is sort of the original story of where we kind of start from all that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that had some, I don't know how many legs hairy monster it was. Yeah, wow. That's a heck of a beginning and a few hairy monsters in there. Dang.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so now that we have the context, what was your call to action?
So as I started working, one of the things that I was immediately pulled to was something called manual therapy, which basically it's the things you're doing hands-on as a physical therapist. Obviously, being poor of sight, great, I can use my hands, I can feel things around. That I feel that I can absolutely do that really well. And sometimes I could even do it better than most people because they would still be relying on their sight to do that specific thing.
Right.
And so I got into this special program as part of the clinic of working more and more on the hands-on things. But I started noticing in the future years an issue. People would come in, they'd have aches and pains. I'd give them exercises, do the hands-on things. They would get better. They would come back a year later, same issue. I would go, did you do your exercises? Inevitably, nobody did their exercises. They did it until they got better and then they stopped. I'm not blaming my patients. I gave myself an exercise regimen for physical therapy, didn't do it. So I get it. It's okay. It's the human condition. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think the answer to all of those things is more exercise. I found that the problem was what their lifestyle was like generally. So they were sitting at their desk and they maybe had two monitors and they were constantly rotated and looking at the left monitor more than the right. So then they got a kink in their neck because they were always rotated more to that side. And yes, sure, I gave them exercises and hands-on, but then they never fixed the thing that was causing their problem.
Right.
So I started talking to patients more about this. Okay, can we talk to your employer? Can we figure out these ways? Not a lot of people want to do that. They don't want to say, okay, I need this, I need that. Maybe 1 out of every 10 at best would ever want to do anything like that. So I've had this thought, I had this idea of, all right, I want to start something besides just working one-on-one with the patients back in November. And I started kind of sort of working on it. But by that December, and this is December of 2020 at this point, I finally got the document, okay, I am now legally blind. So we went through this whole long ordeal of all the surgeries, all these things. And yes, initially when I started, I kind of could read a little bit using some reading glasses. But by that point, no, nada, couldn't really read anything, still couldn't drive. And it was nerve damage. At this point, it was what's commonly known as glaucoma. People say glaucoma is increased pressure in your eye. That's not quite what it is. Glaucoma is just the death of the optic nerve, which is commonly caused by increased pressure in your eye. And that's how they measure it out and how they find that out. So finally, at that point, I went in to the doctor and I said, hey, we need to figure something out here. And they said, no, at this point, your vision's so low, you are legally blind. And they gave me an actual paper. I was like, okay, now I can take this to my employer and say, guys, I need help. I have legal standards by this, because with vision, it can sometimes be difficult. With more, maybe more of a physically noticeable disability, okay, but with vision, you can't really test it. It's what the person is saying they can or cannot see. And it was an interesting little transition because I'd been called in and my boss said, hey, we need to talk. And I thought, oh, okay, or I have something to tell you guys. So it's good. We should talk. And so I sit down to talk with them, fully ready with my little piece of paper, holding onto it tightly. And they go, you're not quite meeting the standards that we need you to meet. We're going to put you on a plan. Well, it's understandable why I'd be put on a plan. I couldn't read. I couldn't document quite as well. Fine. I said, guys, I have this document, by the way. I'm legally blind. I think I need help. I don't think I can actually do this work with what I'm capable of here. And they said, well, we're not really sure. We need to talk to HR. We'll figure something out. To make a long story short, HR effectively started saying, first, you need to meet the numbers, and then we will be able to put you onto the accommodations that you need to do. Which I said, but I can't meet the numbers unless you put me on the accommodation. That makes no sense, guys.
No, accommodations are not contingent on performance legally, I think.
Exactly. And I think this was also one of the first times that this HR person had ever dealt with blindness. And I don't want to blame the company or them. The problem was that we were having this back and forth on emails and I got COVID. So while we were doing all this, all of a sudden I get COVID and I have extra complications from COVID. So not only do I stay out the usual 2 weeks, I had to add on an extra month on top of that because I was having heart pain if I stood up for more than 15 minutes. Can't really be a physical therapist at that point. So during that whole time and then coming back into the clinic, I was thinking, I don't really want to come back into the clinic. I kind of reached out to them again and I said, hey guys, do I really need to do this? Can we just go into the accommodations? And they kind of picked back that same battle up. And I said, guys, I'm done. I don't want this. I'm not interested. I'm out. Both my mom and my fiance at the time, now my wife, they both said, you should have pursued some kind of like legal action or something. But I was just so tired of all of that at that point that I said, no, I don't really care anymore. And so February of that year of 2021, I said, that's it. I'm starting my own company. I'm done. And I left that and I haven't looked back. And that's where I said, I'm going to go in and look at how various companies and desk workers are doing their job and how can I help? And it's transitioned drastically because initially I thought, ooh, ergonomics. Many companies have ergonomics teams. Their employees don't really hear much from their ergonomics teams for some reason. They'll hear once when they get employed and then that's it. But then I realized we need to talk about the culture. It's way bigger than just ergonomics. It's way bigger than one company. It's our general culture around desk work. We think desk work has to be seated and that any kind of movement is all this extra stuff you do outside of work. And we can't seem to make work actually healthy for us. And so that's been that whole transition into all of that with plenty of its fun challenges, which I know we're coming to that question pretty soon.
Well, you've already described a whole bunch of big hairy monsters. Yeah, that was definitely woven in there. You had, nerve damage, parasite, glaucoma, company battles. This is just those are enough hairy monsters. More.
Well, and so to be fair, around the hairy monster side of things is those seem to be very kind of life hairy monsters in a way, because sometimes we have those life monsters, but then how do they affect you in this sort of, okay, now I have a business. How in the world does a blind person run a business? There's just certain things there that you go, well, I don't know. These are new obstacles and new challenges of what do I need to do? What do I need to understand?
Right.
I can't drive. So most likely I'm not going to be the person driving around town and popping in and doing live presentations.
Right.
With the pandemic and everything, going virtual seems almost natural. And so I said, okay, I need to go in and do virtual better than the average. Great. Now that's something I can comfortably do and kind of dive in there. And I think it's this constant point that there is an option for some of these things. I wrote a book. Being blind and writing books is not fun. I'm just going to tell you right away. Even though I enjoyed it, I tried doing the whole dictating speech to text thing. It doesn't work as well as you want to, and you still need to go back and read through it because it makes so many mistakes.
Yes.
No matter how wonderful technology is, we still have to double check it.
Yep.
So after a while, I just decided this is just too, I'm just going to type it and just do that. I am very fortunate. My wife is an editor, so she just got to edit my book and she helped me out a lot. But I can only imagine. On top of all that, I did a TED Talk, which that was about 27 different scripts that I had to write out. The beauty, and this is where sometimes it seems like an obstacle, but sometimes it's a wonderful blessing. And finding those things that now you're more gifted at is most people, when they think I have to memorize, because for TED Talks, you have to actually memorize a script. They don't allow you to ad lib. Most people go, oh my goodness, that's so hard. I'm going, thank goodness, I'm so good at memorizing now because I can't usually read it. I usually have to memorize any kind of quick little thing. And most of the time, my presentations, even in grad school when I had to give presentations and my vision was going downhill during that time as well, people would always say, you just seem to really know what's on your slide. You never look up there or anything. I was like, that's because if I looked up, I wouldn't be able to see anything. I have to know what's up there.
Right.
So in a way, it was this kind of blessing of I had to be very comfortable with all of the kind of the topics and everything to talk about. So you find your own ways in those things. But we'll talk about, because I know we're coming up talking about support and all of that. But there's an interesting obstacle that also comes with family, of the interesting things that family will support you on, and then other things where they just don't seem to understand it, where they just may not support you quite as much.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the journey home, right? That's that whole prophet not taken seriously on their home turf. thing. It's it's real. It's been going on for centuries, millennia. You know, it's a weird little thing that people just don't accept what their family members are doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, who are you and what have you done with Stefan?
Well, it's very interesting. Let's first dive into the mentors and the people that supported me,
Yes.
and then we'll go into the family journey home that you're talking about, because it's so interesting. I have to give huge props to my wife. So I said fiance during that whole time of transition of starting my business and having COVID. I proposed while I had COVID, which was hilarious, because I almost proposed. I had to propose. It was this elaborate thing over Zoom. We were playing a game, and then finally I came downstairs to do the actual proposal, and we had this whole fun thing set up. And at the very end, she goes, "Can I hug you and kiss you?" Because I had active COVID at the time. So we were sleeping in different rooms, and we just weren't sure. We did. Just there's a cute video about it. We said, it's okay. You know, love cures COVID. Kidding. Please don't please don't go to the CDC with that.
Right.
But nevertheless, when I said, "Hey, I think I want to leave. I think I what are we going to do?" She said, "That's fine. I will support us entirely." And she's done more than her fair share, because she's even gotten an even better job since, and just has been supporting me throughout this whole thing, and never questioned it of going, "Well, you're blind. Are you sure?" It's always been rock solid. And then I got a business coach a few months into all of it. And I think I am repeatedly reminded of how incredibly lucky I am to have this specific person. His name's John Michael Morgan. And it's one of those things of where I hear other business coaches, I'm like, yeah, you guys are good. This guy is just amazing and great. And in a way, we also gel well together, which I think everybody should with their business coach. It's not as if he's the best and nobody else is. No, for me, he's absolutely the best. And I was just so fortunate because I didn't really have to do a lot of shopping. He kind of just came into my life miraculously and has been leading me all the way across all of this crazy entrepreneurial kind of landscape through a lot of that stuff. But this brings us to family. And
side of the force.
Right. And as before, we were talking about me going through high school and kind of being overweight, and how my parents handled that. And with all of this, my dad passed several years back. So this was just sort of my mom trying to understand all this. Throughout that whole journey of me going through everything, it was, you got to get educated. You have to go to grad school. That is the way to success. My father had basically an LLC that he tried to do. It was basically more of something that siphoned money and never something that actually earned money, it seemed to my mom. So already she has these beliefs of this isn't very successful. She also has this very interesting superstition, which we can't seem to talk out of her. If you talk about something, it's not going to happen. Right. So if there's something good, you shouldn't talk about it or it won't ever happen.
Right.
And I try to get her past that, but we just can't. And so, and this is the interesting thing also, growing up, my brother and I were never told, not very frequently, good job, you were doing an amazing job, that was fantastic. It was always something along the lines of, okay, good, but maybe better next time. You know, you brought a 95 out of 100 home. Why not 100 next time? I think we can do better. So it was always this thing. And so we're never praised. And so to my face, even now, my mom never says anything to me. So I'll bring up these wonderful accomplishments that I've done. And she'll go, well, that's nice. And that'll be it. But to my wife, she will say, he's so courageous. He's so wonderful. He's so great. I can't believe how strong he is mentally doing all this blind. And I'm going, what? Why? Tell me. I need to hear this, please. But I kind of have to understand that. I have to understand that she believes that if I get that praise from her, her thoughts are, he'll stop trying. That I will no longer, because I've gotten the praise, that's all I need, and I'm going to stop trying and pursuing things. And And that's okay. That's her beliefs, and I have to understand that. So in a way, I've had to kind of stop telling her those things and expecting that she's going to react in a way that I want her to react, because she's going to react in the way that she will react. And I can't control that, and I need to step away from that. So that's definitely been one of those that very much I just have to say, okay. And kind of say with my brother, he's getting his PhD in neuroscience, so he's still going that academic route. So it's strange to him to hear some of those things that I'm doing. He's a bit more receptive, but still, I've very much had to say, we'll talk about family things, whatever else. But as for when it comes to business and my goals and dreams and that side, I have other people that I can discuss that with that will uplift me, as opposed to just silence in return.
Right, right. And it's so important to have those people who will uplift you.
Mm-hmm.
And good for you for recognizing that you can't do anything about your not quite naysayers, but non-sayers. And sort of, okay, it sucks, I'm going on. Yeah.
Right. And it does. And I want to say that, that happened so easily, and I didn't just repeatedly backslide. I repeatedly backslid. Anytime that I did something new and unique, I thought, no, it's different. Now I'm going to tell her, and she's going to go, wow, that's amazing. And no. And I don't want to make it sound like my mom never gave me praise, but it's just been so minimal that to the degree that I thought that, how much work I put in, it was not quite there. And that's okay. You don't need to try to change them. I think that's what I'm working on more and more with. And that's therapy has helped as well. I can't take all the credit. That's so,
therapy is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, Stefan, I understand that you have a gift for our viewers.
So partially, I have a book that is called Sit Less. And if you just go to Amazon, you can find it. Sit Less, Stefan Zavalin. It's got a beautiful purple cover. For those watching, it's a beautiful purple cover because purple is the favorite color. So if you get the book, send me an email or just a contact form. So the email, if it is in the links, is stefan.zavalin@ltmmtl.com. Or if you just go to stefanzavalin.com, you can just do a little contact, and there it is. In the email, not only obviously do I want to see that you actually bought the book, but you have to give me the name of the podcast. Then I know where you heard me. And then we can do a 30-minute one-on-one where I'm just going to tell you how best to use this book and how to best use it for yourself. I'm not going to try to sell you on anything and give you, no, I literally, there's a way this book is meant to be used, and I want to make sure that you get the best out of it. So, but that's really only for the listeners of this podcast. I usually don't do this.
Nice. Good for you. Yeah. So Sweet Sound of Success or Hero's Journey. Let's use either one of those in the context.
They're fair.
And it's all good. So, well, thank you, Stefan. You have had an incredible journey. Wow. That is so cool. And I want to thank you for being a guest on my show.
It's been a pleasure. This is a very unique show. I don't usually get asked to in this kind of in a journey manner, and I think it's just beautiful the way that you pull these wonderful stories from your guests.
Thank you. I like it. And thank you to my viewers and listeners on the Sweet Sound of Success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action Coaching Program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action Coaching Program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.